Story 1. I love fresh fruit but want nothing to do with hot pies or jellied fruit. Exceptions are made for strawberry rhubarb baked goods and blackberry jam. Story 2. Asparagus. I had canned asparagus once as a kid, and that put me off it for about 30 years. Then I got brave and tried it again grilled with olive oil, pepper, and lemon. Story 3. I hate sweet potatoes in every variation. However, when raw and given to school children, they are quite magical. Story 4. Eggs. I love scrambled eggs, but put that same egg in a hard-boiled form, and it is like you are handing me a rubber ball. Just no. Story 5. Pierogies boiled and pan-fried are the only way to prepare them. Deep frying until they are hard nuggets is sacrilege. Story 6. Hot dog sausages. I definitely prefer them fried in a pan or on the barbecue. I am not a fan of boiled ones. Story 7. Oatmeal for breakfast is cinnamon-flavored wet cardboard. Oatmeal raisin cookies are possibly the best cookies. Story 8. I dislike tomatoes in my salad or on my sandwiches, but I really love fried green tomatoes as well as pico de gallo. Story 9. I have zero use for a slice of raw tomato. It is disgusting. However, if you take that same slice and flash fry it for 10 seconds, I love it. Story 10. Most cooked vegetables, such as carrots and cauliflower, which you would also find raw on a vegetable tray, I will only eat raw. Cooked carrots are unpleasant. Story 11. Salmon. I absolutely love sushi. I could eat a whole fillet raw. Lox can be hit or miss, but I cannot stand it cooked for some reason. I do not know why. It should be the other way around. Story 12. Mashed potatoes. I can't even watch people eat them because of a terrible blind date I went on when I was younger. But I will enjoy some French fries, baked potatoes, chips, and so on. Story 13. This may not make sense to people, but mixing cheese into scrambled eggs in the middle of cooking rather than when they are done tastes much better. Story 14. I dislike poached eggs and scrambled eggs but love boiled eggs, fried eggs with a solid yolk, an omelette, French toast, and pancakes. Story 15. My two favorite vegetables are spinach and carrots, and it is for completely opposite reasons. I love uncooked spinach on a sandwich or in a salad but hate having it cooked in any way. I enjoy all other cooked greens like mustard greens and collards. I just dislike how cooked spinach tastes, and the texture is too slimy and soft. Carrots, on the other hand, have to be cooked until they turn soft, or I cannot stand them. Any kind of crunch in a carrot bothers me, and I cannot eat them. Story 16. Okra. Good fried okra is amazing. Boiled okra is a slimy abomination, the only exception being in gumbo. Story 17. Basically, most vegetables. Boil them and I'd rather starve. Roast them and I'd happily live a vegan life. Story 18. I love straight black coffee, including espresso. I dislike coffee slathered in sugar, cream, and flavored syrups. Story 19. Cheesecake. Because you don't tell someone you'll make them a cheesecake from scratch. Who has had an actual handmade cheesecake, then turned around and given them a pre-made pie crust with that Jell-O cheesecake filling inside it? I was upset for a reason, Nancy. You dollar store diva. Story 20. Raw cucumber makes me gag. The only place I can handle raw cucumber is in a gin and tonic. Pickled cucumber, however, elevates salads and burgers, and I love it. Story 21. Scrambled eggs with some butter in the saucepan are ready when they are still creamy, not dry. Anything else is unpleasant. Story 22. Warm marinara sauce on pasta. Yum. Warm marinara sauce with fried mozzarella sticks. Gross. It needs to be cold. Story 23. Brussels sprouts. Broiled versus steamed or boiled. One is crispy and delicious. The other smells and tastes unpleasant. Story 24. Tomatoes are one of my favorite foods in the world. I have been eating tomatoes with feta and basil as snacks since I was 4 or 5 years old. There is nothing about real tomatoes I do not like, raw, in dishes, cooked, sun-dried, salsa, and more. But do not dare put ketchup in front of me. It is horrible that people even consider it in the same category as tomatoes. I do not care how dry my food is. Get that monstrosity away from me. Story 25. Onions hurt, so tread lightly on the love part of it. I can't stand raw onions, but when they are sautéed and part of something, it is doable. Story 26. Love avocado. Will eat it sliced or spooned out. Mash it up, though, and I will not go near it. I will scrape it off the plate and anything it touches. Weird. Story 27. I despise fresh tomatoes. I love spaghetti sauce, ketchup, and similar products. Basically, if it has been processed or cooked in some way, it makes the tomatoes good. Regular, uncooked tomatoes are nasty. Story 28. Cannot stand raw tomatoes on items like burgers, tacos, or burritos. If made into pico de gallo, salsa, or a sauce, loaded up. Story 29. Okra fried is the best invention ever, but boiled okra is the most disgusting slimy thing you have ever tried. Story 30. Weird. I get looks for saying it, but it's true. I hate just avocado like sliced up or on toast. But guacamole? I love it. Story 31. I hate cooked cauliflower but like it raw. My husband is the opposite with spinach. He hates it cooked and loves it raw. Story 32. Sweet potatoes. Cook them, mash them, and pour marshmallows all over them and bake them. Yuck. However, cube them, oil them with spices such as thyme, garlic salt, pepper, and smoky paprika, and roast them with thinly sliced sweet onions. I love them and will even eat them cold. Story 33. Pierogi. Sautéed is fine. Boiled gives it a weird texture that I refuse to eat. I do not care how my traditionally Eastern European grandmother made them. I am not eating them that way. Story 34. Chicken parmigiana. I don't like to make the breaded chicken from scratch, but if I use pre-made breaded chicken, I'm okay with that. Not just breaded chicken, but other dishes like shrimp tempura, tonkatsu, carriage, meat cutlets, and General Tso's chicken. When breading and deep frying are involved, I don't like them. Story 35. I dislike all overcooked or mildly burned foods, such as barbecue with lots of charred portions, well-done steaks, and very brown pancakes. The same foods cooked lightly are delicious. Story 36. Cabbage. I love coleslaw and I like cabbage in general when it is fresh. But cooked, I do not even want to be in the same room. I do not want to be in the same house when someone is cooking cabbage. Story 37. Cooked carrots are like eating unappetizing baby food, but raw carrots are crunchy and tasty. Drinking carrot juice is very refreshing. Story 38. Spinach. Raw is fine. Cooked is not recommended. Yellow squash. Diced, coated in cornmeal, and fried is great. Any other way is not recommended. Story 39. Cauliflower cooked is tasteless, bland, and sad. Raw, it is crunchy, slightly peppery, and great with a dip. Story 40. Onions and tomatoes. I hate raw onions, but I'll eat caramelized onions like there's no tomorrow. Same with tomatoes. I can't stand raw tomatoes of any kind, but I'll eat tomato sauce all day. Story 41. Spinach. Raw baby spinach in a salad is good. Any form of cooked spinach is not recommended. Carrots, to a lesser extent, are the same. Story 42. Sweet potato. I love them baked, roasted, and mashed, but I think sweet potato fries are disgusting. They are always undercooked and soaked with grease. I have tried them in many different restaurants over the years, thinking, maybe this time they will be good. This time will be different. It never is. I know this is unpopular. I have had people, close friends even, look at me like I am crazy because no, I do not want to split a basket of sweet potato fries with you. Gross. Story 43. I really just do not like raw apples in any way, but I love them cooked pies, crumbles, apple cinnamon bread, you name it. Story 44. This is one I basically invented for myself as a youngster. I have always loved salads, but only if they have vinegar dressing, not vinaigrette, vinegar with the spice of my choice. My mom would sometimes make tuna salad, which I was not a fan of at all. Then I realized if it is really a salad, I could prepare it myself with vinegar instead of mayonnaise. I did, and I have loved it that way ever since. Story 45. I only eat raw carrots. Not baby carrots either. I will never eat a mushy or half-mushy cooked carrot. Story 46. If you are cooking food in water, there is a better method. Pasta is a rare exception, but even it can be improved with the proper technique. Story 47. I have never liked walnuts in anything, but when I freeze them fresh off the tree, they can be oddly delicious to snack on as they are. Story 48. Bitter gourd, called Karela in my language, has to be cut in a particular way, fried in mustard oil, and made with thinly sliced potatoes to be delicious. It is 10 out of 10 if my mum makes it. Story 49. Cheese. I love it melted, but if you handed me a cold slice of cheddar, for example, my mouth would lock up and not let it enter. It is a texture thing. Story 50. I love coffee, for example, cappuccino or latte. I cannot stand coffee-flavored things like cakes and cookies. Story 51. Tuna fish. I hate cooked tuna fish, but I love tuna raw in sushi or sashimi. I also prefer raw salmon over cooked salmon. Story 52. Salmon. I dislike it in almost every way except when it is smoked. I also enjoy it when made into a deep-fried fritter. Story 53. Tea made from a tea bag tastes unpleasant compared to tea prepared properly with loose leaves and a kettle. Story 54. I hate cooked bell peppers. The texture and flavor are absolutely terrible. However, I will eat a whole bell pepper like an apple as a snack. Story 55. Salmon. I cannot stand it cooked, but I love it in lox form or sushi. I like other cooked fish, just not salmon for some reason. I wish I did. Story 56. Carrots. I love thin carrots oven roasted with just olive oil and salt. I could choke down a raw carrot, but a sweet carrot coin? No, thank you. Story 57. Eggplant is not great and disappointing when I make it, but excellent and a favorite when made in every Indian restaurant I have ever been to. Story 58. Shrimp, when jumbo-sized and steamed, gives me the ick. However, smaller-sized shrimp incorporated into other dishes is great, or fried even, yum. Story 59. Tomatoes, whether cold or warm in anything, are absolutely delicious. However, cold tomatoes with slimy skin and seeds are not acceptable to me. Story 60. Tuna melt sandwiches. Fresh bread with fresh cold tuna is fine. I love it. Grill it, and as soon as it enters my mouth, I instantly gag and spit it out. I want to like it. I do. I really do. But basically, any seafood grilled like a crab melt or similar has never and will never stay in my mouth long enough to chew. Story 61. I absolutely love dishes that involve tomato sauce, and warm cherry tomatoes are heaven. But adding raw tomato to any dish might make me gag. Story 62. I didn't realize how gross liver is when it's not made by my mom. I don't know how she does it or prepares it, but the liver taste is muted and genuinely delicious. Simple and so good. I tried my mother-in-law's liver once. It was absolutely disgusting, and I like my mother-in-law, but I genuinely couldn't get the taste of liver out of my mouth fast enough. No thank you. Story 63. I cannot stand tomatoes, not at all. They ruin everything. But I really love some solid pasta sauce made with attention to detail. Story 64. Does fugu count? Prepared one way, it is the finest sashimi you will ever have. Prepared another way, it is your last meal. Story 65. Coconut. Hate. Shaved, slivered, dried coconut, coconut water, macaroons. Love, curry, pina coladas. Story 66. Salmon. I love salmon sushi, but I dislike cooked salmon. Carrots and celery. I love them raw, but cooked carrots and celery seriously gross me out. Story 67. I love all the ingredients that make up quiche. Cannot stand quiche. I do not have a definitive answer for why. Story 68. Raw onions I cannot eat. The texture and fumes bother me. Cook them properly, though, and they enhance the dish. Story 69. Please leave me alone. I was going to post this exact question last night. Carrots. I love them raw but cannot stand them roasted. Also potatoes. I love them basically any way except mashed. Story 70. Any vegetable canned is unappetizing, but I will eat them roasted, grilled, or boiled depending on the vegetable. Please avoid boiled Brussels sprouts. Story 71. Most vegetables. Ears of corn. Roast them in the husk. Please do not boil the life out of them. Broccoli florets should be sautéed and should have some bite when I eat them. If they are gray, soggy, and boiled, no thank you. I did not eat Brussels sprouts for decades because I thought they were bitter and awful, which frozen Brussels sprouts boiled on the stove truly are. Then I tried them roasted. Yummy. Story 72. My brother and one of my children will not eat melted cheese. Regular blocks, slices, or grated cheese. Absolutely. Melted cheese? Definitely not. Story 73. Eggs. I love scrambled, fried, and poached, but cannot stand omelets. Yikes. Once an egg is cooked like that, it changes the entire flavor. I know it is not a popular dislike, yet here we are. Story 74. I guess this fits. I like peanut butter on celery, peanut butter on crackers, and peanut butter with jelly. I do not like peanut butter cookies. Story 75. I hate salmon cooked but find it amazing when it is in its sushi raw form. I love salsa, tomato sauce, ketchup, tomato paste, and tomato seasoning, but I despise tomatoes by themselves. I will eat fries, tots, mashed potatoes, and gnocchi, but I do not like potatoes in any lumped or whole form. Story 76. I dislike sweet potatoes when they are made sweeter with ingredients like cinnamon and marshmallows. However, if you add herbs and spices, they are incredible. Absolutely incredible. Story 77. Salmon. Give it to me raw with a drop of soy sauce, but properly treated for parasites and, yum. However, cook it more than 5 seconds on either side, and we will have words. Story 78. Bacon. If it is not crispy, it grosses me out. I usually make my own because most places do not understand what crispy means. Story 79. I dislike sweet plantains because they taste like warm bananas, and I dislike bananas. However, I love fried plantains, but only when my girlfriend's mother makes them. Story 80. Whitefish planked is not good, and I strongly disagree. Beer battered and deep fried is a much better preparation. It results in fish that is rich, meaty, and very tasty. Story 81. Buttered toast cut straight across. What are you doing? I'm not touching it. Buttered toast cut diagonally. Perfect. Story 82. If I try to eat an egg that is scrambled or fried, I will throw up. Mix it with some flour, sugar, and chocolate, and I can eat cake all day. Story 83. I do not like chunks or slices of peppers, raw or cooked. However, if you dice them and sauté them in a pan with some butter, they are delicious. Story 84. Mushrooms. Raw mushrooms are unpleasant and difficult to digest. Button mushrooms contain compounds that break down when cooked, which you should avoid ingesting. However, they are delicious when cooked properly and thoroughly. Story 85. Cheese toasties made in a sandwich press upset my stomach. Prepared the classic way under the grill, they are one of my favorite things. Story 86. Potatoes. I love French fries, boiled whole potatoes, especially the small red ones, and any form of fried potatoes except scalloped potatoes. However, if you bring me mashed potatoes, I will not eat them. Story 87. Okra. You put boiled okra in front of me. It will rot before I eat it. Now you chop it up, run it through an egg wash, roll it in some fresh ground cornmeal, fry it up in bacon fat, and serve it with a side of pinto beans and a slab of cornbread. Brother, we're talking about dinner. Story 88. In general, I dislike eggs. However, I can tolerate them scrambled or cooked over easy. My main issue is with the egg whites, and these two methods mask their taste enough for me to tolerate them. Story 89. Cook spinach on a stovetop and expect me to eat it. Throw spinach on a pizza or in a salad. Story 90. I didn't know I could hate broccoli until my grandmother boiled it thoroughly. I love it raw or roasted or sautéed. Story 91. Green peppers. I have only ever liked them on pizza. They seem to overpower other flavors in every other dish I have tried them in. It drives my boyfriend nuts because he loves them and wants to add them to everything. Story 92. Spinach. I love raw spinach salads, especially in the summer with berries. If you saute spinach and try to feed me that, I would try to punch you in the face. Story 93. I did not like hot dogs as a child or even as an adult until someone practically begged me to try a certain brand of hot dog. Now it is the only hot dog I will eat. Sabert brand, by the way. Also, grilled hot dogs are average, but boiled traditional hot dogs are good. I despise ketchup, but tomatoes in dishes are fine. I love dill pickles and hate any that are sweet. Story 94. Cheese. I hate cheesecakes, but I love cheese in anything savory like pizza or burgers. Basically, I don't like adding it to desserts. Story 95. Potato salad. If made with mayonnaise, it is creamy and delicious. If made with mustard, it is unpleasant. Story 96. Adobo. I love Filipino adobo but dislike the Mexican style, which is funny since I love most Mexican food. Story 97. I can tolerate sweet potato pie, but sweet potato fries are extremely unpleasant to me. I also strongly dislike lettuce in items like burgers, burritos, wraps, and tacos, but I enjoy Caesar salad. Before anyone says I just like the dressing, I can tolerate dry, crunchy salad with barely any dressing at all. It's when salad is inside something else that it tastes very unpleasant to me. I almost always pick it out of burgers, wraps, and tacos. Story 98. Potatoes. Boiled or mashed potatoes on their own I hate, but make fries out of them, bake them, slice and fry them, or do anything else and they are suddenly amazing. Story 99. Scrambled eggs are unpleasant to me. Boiled eggs are tolerable, and non-runny sunny-side-up eggs seasoned to perfection are one of the best things ever. Story 100. Don't really care for grapes, but do like raisins. Don't really like cooked carrots. Raw, they are fine. Don't like tomatoes, but do like many things made from them, such as tomato sauce, barbecue sauce, and ketchup. Story 101. Corn on the cob is amazing. Corn from the can is disgusting. I also dislike canned green beans and peas. I prefer frozen or fresh. Story 102. Green beans. Pulverize them with a couple of slices of bacon, and you can stay around. Sauté them with olive oil and you can leave. Story 103. Carrots. You can't eat them if they are sliced, diced, or cubed, but throw them in a soup and mash them? Absolutely marvelous. Story 104. Boiled potatoes sound like a good idea every once in a while until I get to the second one, at which point I want an actual taste of something else, and suddenly there are too many potatoes that I do not want in the slightest. Throw the same boring boiled potatoes into a pan, add some spices, and let them char entirely on 1 to 2 sides. Now you have a great dish by itself or as a side. Story 105. Steamed beets or boiled, heck too gets rolled. In soup or borscht, why yes of course. The beetroot and the leaves, if they are fresh, and other vegetables in broth cooked with herbs, yum. Story 106. Asparagus and spinach. My mom used to use the canned version of both. The first time I had them fresh, I was hooked. I now eat them nearly every week. Story 107. My eggs need to be solid, not runny. My steaks need to not be bloody but barely pink inside. Bacon needs to not be crispy and not be too bendy, just enough to where you have to tear it apart with your fingers. Breakfast sausage should never be covered in maple syrup. Story 108. I am not a fan of thick burger patties at restaurants. It drives me crazy when Gordon Ramsay or John Taffer criticize chefs for making thin, crispy patties. Story 109. Cheese sandwiches. Slices of cheese with the sandwich cut into rectangles or squares. Not a chance. Grated cheese cut into triangles? I will take 12. Story 110. My grandma only knew one way to cook vegetables, and that was to boil them until they lost all flavor, texture, and nutritional value. That does not quite answer the question, but it is a fact. Story 111. I cannot eat scalloped potatoes because the smell and the thought of warm milk or cream turns my stomach, but potatoes prepared any other way are, of course, amazing. Also, tomatoes. I cannot eat a sandwich tomato slice because it is gross and squishy, but I can handle a tomato wedge in a salad. Story 112. Raw green peppers are amazing. Cooked green peppers are unappetizing. Conversely, raw oysters are unpleasant, but cooked oysters are amazing. Story 113. Do French toast sticks count the same as French toast? I hate French toast, but give me French toast sticks anytime. Maybe the deep frying makes the difference for me. Story 114. Cannot stand hard-boiled eggs, deviled eggs, egg salad, eggs in coleslaw, but will gladly have eggs in an omelet, scrambled eggs in a burrito, fried eggs over medium, eggs Benedict. Story 115. Tomatoes. As a juice or a paste, perfect. Love it. I would chug down a pint of tomato juice. In any other form or texture, I will pick them out of my plate and insult you for trying to feed them to me. Story 116. Black olives. On pizza, I am all for them. In or on almost anything else, no. The green olives are completely off the menu. Story 117. Carrots, peas, onions. Raw or prepared normally gag me, but if you put that in stew, I am all over it. Story 118. Onions. I cannot eat them plain and raw. Raw but soaked in vinegar is no problem. Grilled, yes. Sautéed, absolutely. I cannot eat them raw without getting severe indigestion. Story 119. I dislike Jamaican curry chicken because my father is Jamaican and always makes it, but I genuinely love Thai curry and Indian curry. Story 120. I like my ramen to soften by sitting in hot water and steam for a few minutes. My husband likes to boil it with the water, and I think it is so gross. Story 121. No warm fruit. Like any kind of pie, I know there are more warm fruit dishes, but I cannot think of any more. Story 122. Mushrooms. I cannot stand them raw on salads. Slimy and weird. But sauté them with garlic and butter? Absolute magic. Story 123. Strawberry. Anything but fresh natural strawberries is unpleasant. Jam, candy, drinks, in food, mixed with something. Gross. Cannot stand the taste. Story 124. Spinach. The canned spinach is not good. I prefer fresh spinach, which is better than lettuce in my opinion. I also cannot stand mushrooms. However, I love cube steak with mushroom soup. Story 125. Liver is absolutely unappealing unless cooked properly, which is incredibly hard to achieve. However, when done right, it is extremely delicious. It is prepared best in the Habesha regions of East Africa. Story 126. Any boiled vegetable is a crime against nature. You can parboil and then finish off roasting it or something like that, but plain boiled vegetables are just awful. Story 127. I am pretty fond of ice cream, mostly plain vanilla and chocolate, but I detest inclusions in it. I do not want any nuts, fruit, or cookie pieces. Chocolate syrup or hot fudge over it, but that is it. Story 128. Broccoli. I love it steamed, fried, or even raw. I hate it boiled, which is how my mother always made it. Story 129. Raisins. I cannot stand them cooked into anything or even raw. I will eat around them like a child, but if they are covered in chocolate or yogurt, I can eat them by the handful. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.